Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, I rise today to speak in favour of Senator Batters' proposed amendment to restore safeguards that have been unjustifiably removed from this legislation. I am very concerned about the dilution of safeguards from our existing regime and the consequences of diluting those safeguards, particularly because we have been told by experts that we do not have any evidence to justify their removal. Bill C-14 put in place a waiting period of at least 10 clear days after signing a request for medical assistance in dying. This request must also be signed and dated by 2 independent witnesses before aid is provided. The purpose of that clear 10-day period has been to provide a period of time where the full implications of that decision should be considered, both by the patient and by the patient's practitioners. This is to ensure confidence in the patient's desire to receive physician-induced death. Bill C-14 was focused on individuals who have a grievous and irremediable medical condition. Exceptions were incorporated into the legislation to waive the 10-day reflection period if the medical practitioners agreed that death was fast approaching, or if alternatively an individual might soon lose the capacity to provide informed consent. We know that according to the Canadian Medical Association Journal, this waiting period has in fact been waived. On its website, the Government of Canada indicates that the purpose of the waiting period is to, quote, provide patients ample time to reconsider their request and allow health practitioners to feel confident about the sustainability of the individual's decision. I believe that safeguards were very appropriate in that while flexible, they reinforce the exceptional nature of what was being enshrined in legislation, namely that medical assistance in dying should be provided, but that every effort would be made to ensure the patient fully understood the implications of his or her decision. The waiting period also enables a patient to be fully aware of the potential healthcare alternatives to assisted death. The principle was that a person's worst day should not automatically transition into becoming their last day due to a decision largely made in an atmosphere of pain and suffering. The 10-day reflection period that exists in our current legislation comes from the published work of Dr. Harvey Chokanoff, who found that desire to die in terminally ill fluctuates and often dissipates in 2 weeks. When Minister Hadju was asked about removing this safeguard, she stated that often when formal request is made, this is after long, difficult conversations with family and physicians, and that when this decision is finally reached, waiting an additional 10 days is unnecessarily cruel. However, the minister is missing the point entirely. We all know that safeguards are not put in place for what is often the case. Safeguards are put in place for the exact opposite reason, to prevent unnecessary and wrongful death in situations that are less obvious, where an individual does not have such a support system or is experiencing fleeting suicidal ideations. Colleagues, we would like to believe that adequate and equal care is provided to all patients in such circumstances, but we know from experience that this is not the case. Over 1,000 practicing Canadian doctors recently signed an open letter in relation to noting that up to 70% of citizens nearing the end of life still have no access to basic palliative care services. Colleagues, I find it most disturbing that our answer to this problem now is that we will make medically assisted dying easier to obtain and that we will do them a favor by reducing the safeguards around any requests that they make for that service. Dr. Leonie Herx of the Canadian Society of Palliative Care Physicians wrote recently, "Almost all of the patients I work with in palliative care have reasonably foreseeable death. And so with the new law, the removal of the 10-day waiting period from the time of request to receiving aid means that my patients, almost all of them, were to express a desire to die, could be offered aid or request aid and die that day. So in essence, their worst day becomes their last day without any opportunity for healing. This is extremely unsettling, colleagues. Colleagues, let's not lose sight of the importance of safeguards in this legislation. dealing with life and death. I hope you will join me in voting in favor of this amendment so the safeguards that have undoubtedly prevented unnecessary death can continue to serve this function under this revised regime. Thank you.